former Alaska Governor Sarah Palin. Governor Palin, it's a pleasure. As always, welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Hey, thank you so much. It's my honor.
Recently, the New York Times and the Washington Post somehow persuaded the government of Alaska, the folks that succeeded you in power, to release emails that you wrote in your first several years in office. It was a big ho-hum. The liberal media was looking for something scandalous or scurrilous. They found nothing. Why do you think the government even went along with this and disseminated these emails that you wrote?
Well, you know, it certainly shows the priorities in what was once a respected cornerstone of our democracy, our mainstream media, and we see that priorities are quite skewed. But with the gusto that they went after my emails from back in 06 to 09 during my term as governor, you know, I hope that folks who read the emails learned a lot about oil and gas policy and how important it is to take steps towards energy independence here in America, which Alaska is a leader of. And fish and game conservation, that was a big priority of mine, and protecting Second Amendment rights. I hope people who read the emails understood why I opposed Obama's stimulus package and vetoed funds out of the stimulus package, and ethics reform that I worked on. I just hope that folks learned a lot from these, I guess, sort of benign and boring emails, but it showed, I think, a picture of what my priorities were. With a servant's heart, trying to serve the good people of Alaska.
Well, you know, it showed you hard at work, and the build-up to this was a lot greater than the actual reality. The anticipation of it was such a drumbeat. You must actually feel vindicated that there was no there from the point of view of what the liberal media was hoping to find.
Well, Judge, between, you know, having my own personal emails hacked during the vice presidential campaign and then having a former staffer who had hoarded 5 years worth of emails and then presented those to the public out of context in a book that he recently wrote, you know, I knew that there was nothing to hide because you know, I know what I've done over these years. So, you know, there are some things in the emails, though, that I thought, yeah, it provided some vindication, like why I killed the bridge to nowhere up here in Alaska, knowing that it wasn't a state priority, so it shouldn't be a federal priority, explaining that to my staff in Washington, D.C. and in Juneau, Alaska, our state capital, via email, explaining to staff why it was important to quash a project like that. That came out in the emails, and hopefully it just shed some more light for people to understand my ideology, my thinking about smaller, smarter government, and why that's so important for our nation as a whole.
Here in New York today, we all witnessed the spectacle of Congressman, he's still a congressman, Anthony Weiner, announcing that he was going to resign because of personal behavior that was utterly reprehensible. Should the Congress have threatened to kick him out, or are the people of Brooklyn and Queens entitled to have a pervert representing them in Congress if that's what they want?
Well, yes, they are entitled to having someone like Anthony Weiner represent them if truly that is what they want. But I have faith in the people there in Queens and elsewhere in New York that they deserve better, and I think that they will receive better. Anthony Weiner, from henceforth, after his personal indiscretions were disclosed, he was going to be rendered impotent, basically, there in Congress, and he wasn't going to be able to be effective. So obviously it was the right thing to do. A day late, dollar short, though. I think he should have resigned right when all of this came to light.
Earlier this week, there was a debate amongst the announced, or almost all the announced, I don't think Governor Huntsman was there, Republican candidates for the nomination for President of the United States. And Congresswoman Michele Bachmann from Minnesota has gotten a lot of attention. I think it may have been the first time she appeared in that venue with people who were far better known than she. Is she prepared to be President of the United States?
She is. When you compare any of the conservatives who are running on the GOP ticket and those who are still potential candidates, maybe more will jump in. And I am convinced, Judge, that the field isn't set. More people will jump in. But Michele Bachmann and others, when you consider their conservative credentials and those like Michele especially, who has the Tea Party backing because she's not phony about her understanding of Tea Party patriot philosophy and kind of ideology there that needs to be plugged into an agenda to help our country. These common sense conservatives who are willing to run, I look at all of them and I say, come on now. anybody but Obama. We cannot afford 4 more years of Obama and his big government overreaching agenda. So anybody but Obama at this point.
When you were watching the debate or listening to it, were you thinking to yourself how you would answer the questions? Or stated differently, were you imagining yourself there with those folks competing against them?
Once in a while, I do. When I listen to interviews or parts of a debate, yeah, I think that's natural. What I would like to see is a little bit more of the GOP contenders not hesitating to call one another out on their records.
Right.
I think it's important for the public to understand. Here, we condemn the Democrats quite often, I know I do, for not having vetted their own candidate, Obama, and in allowing him to kind of rise to the surface there to become the nominee and then the general election winner a few years ago and now become our president. He wasn't vetted by the press, but he also wasn't vetted by the old party. So it's kind of hypocritical for Republicans to think, well, we shouldn't be calling one another out on our records, on our associations. It's very important that we do, because that's in fairness to the electorate. They need to know what all of our records are, what it is that we have stood for. And, you know, there's some very, very important issues today, like Obamacare. Did somebody support it in the past? Have they changed their spots? Do they now not support Obamacare? What for?
You recently took a bus tour throughout the Northeast, and it caused an enormous stir on the part of the media, in part because they didn't know where the bus was going to go next, but they wanted to be with you, and they wanted to see to whom you were going to speak, and they wanted to hear what your words are. You must know from that experience that if you entered the Republican presidential race tomorrow or in the next month or so, it would be a game changer, that many of the Tea Party folks would coalesce behind you, that most of the conservatives would say you are the genuine article. Have you given serious thought to how you, Sarah Palin, single-handedly could change this game and give the White House fits?
I would love to give the White House fits. I would, because, you know, I would love to stir it up even more and get the electorate to really start thinking about what the solutions are to these great challenges facing America and how it is that we're going to create jobs, how it is that we're going to get this economy back on the right track, Judge. So I would love to be able to shake it up. But I also know it's not about me. It's not Sarah Palin personally. It's about a message. It's about what it is that I represent. What I represent is this understanding of what the middle class desires in their government. And basically at this point, in watching government grow and overreach and overtax and create such uncertainty in the marketplace, basically what we in the middle class want is for government to just get out of the way. Let the private sector grow and thrive. Let our job creators keep more of what we earn and produce so we can hire more people, and that'll get the economy rolling along. So I know it's the message. It's not Sarah Palin up here in Wasilla, Alaska, and what it is that I personally bring to the table.
Who better than you to deliver that message? Is there anyone up there on that stage without you there that in your view is the genuine article?
There are a lot of genuine articles out there, a lot of folks who understand those Tea Party principles, and they're common sense conservatives. They understand the free market. They understand that unless we change course very, very rapidly here, our country will be bankrupt. We will be beholden to foreign countries. And there are many out there who, some declared, some not declared yet, some may never declare to want to run for public office, who know what they're doing, Judge, and they do want to help this country, and they do want to serve for the right reasons with servants' hearts.
You are teasing the daylights out of our office by saying some declared, some not declared, some who may declared, some who may not declared, because you may be talking about yourself. But let me switch gears just a little bit. There is a battle going on, I think, for the heart and soul of the Republican Party. We see it in Congress when Republican leadership sometimes sides with the White House and the Tea Party members of the House of Representatives side with the Constitution, with the Ron Paul, Sarah Palin, even Michele Bachmann ideas of smaller government. Are you clearly on the side of small government? And if the nominee of the party for president is not on the side of small government, but is a big government Republican, will you go rogue, to quote the title of your best-selling autobiography, and not support that nominee if you don't agree with him? Or will you support any Republican over Barack Obama?
I'm going to work as hard as I can to make sure that a nominee surfaces who is a supporter of a smaller, smarter government. And then we won't be put in that position of needing to go rogue. As I said previously, though, Judge, it's anybody but Obama. Things cannot get any worse under a Republican administration if the electorate chooses to change course. And we need to. 9.1% unemployment.
Right.
$2.6 trillion that we bring in terms of revenue every year, Judge, and we're still asked to incur more debt to be able to service the debt that we already have. We can't already take out of the $2.6 trillion in revenue that the federal government receives to service the debt today. Instead, it's so Orwellian to me. It's so bizarre, the thinking that's coming out of the White House and some in Congress who are believing that we need to incur more debt to eventually get us out of debt instead of taking what we have now, prioritizing the revenue that we take from the taxes from the American people, and service the debt today and quit digging the hole that we're in.
All right. The President of the United States thinks he can start a war on his own, thinks he can bomb in Libya in defiance of the Constitution, in defiance of the War Powers Act, by simply not calling it a war. Should the Congress stop him? And if the Congress doesn't stop him, should the courts, where, as you know, Republicans and Democrats together have sued the president, should the courts stop him?
Congress should stop our president from engaging in a war that A, we can't afford, B, has not received the consent, the approval of Congress, and obviously the War Powers Act demands that the president receive that consent, that approval from Congress. Bush, of course, received approval in the Iraq War. Here, President Obama is thinking that we're not engaged in hostilities, even though we're engaged in dropping bombs on combatants in Libya, and we're calling that something other than a hostility. Well, President Obama is wrong on this one. Representative Boehner is right in passing this resolution, calling the president on this. I don't want to have to kind of solve the foreign policy problems that we have via the judicial system. It needs to be in Congress that we resolve this, so I do support Boehner's resolution on this.
Governor Palin, what a pleasure to have you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Anytime.